I think for me, when it comes to finding your purpose, perhaps the most helpful and inspiring Bible story is the story of Esther. Esther, this Jewish girl who ends up being queen of Babylon, where the Jews are in exile, and they have this moment where they're under threat, a threat of annihilation. And Mordecai, Esther's cousin, comes to her in Esther chapter 4, verse 14, and he says this very famous verse. He says to her, "Who knows, maybe you've been brought to the royal palace for such a time as this." And he's challenging her to use her influence with the king to try and protect the Jews. But what's really interesting is to notice his assumption that the only place she can find her purpose is in the time right now. For such a time as this. That the only place you can find your purpose is right here, right now, wherever you are, whatever season God has placed you in. And one of the barriers, I think, for some of us in discovering our purpose is that we don't live in this time. We're not focused on this time. We're not asking about what's God's purpose for me in this time. For some of us, we're living in the past. That we're ignoring this time because we're living in the past and we're consumed by our failures and our regrets, maybe some of the wrong roads we've gone down. And if we hadn't ended up here and we'd ended up there, then we would find our purpose. But the only place you can find your purpose is in the present, is in the time such as this. And some of us don't find our purpose because we're looking for our purpose in the future. And we say, well, when this happens, when I find the right man, when I've got some more money, when I'm older, when I've got the right qualifications, when I've got the right opportunities, then I'm going to really serve God. I find this sometimes with teenagers, and I don't want to offend any teenagers who might be listening, but they talk about the future and when they're going to serve God. But actually, the only time, the only place you can discover God's purpose is right here and right now. That's the only place you can encounter God's purpose. And for some people, it's actually not their past or their future they live in, but somebody else's circumstances. And they think, if I had those skills or those opportunities that person has, or that person's money, or that person's time, then I would find purpose. It's obvious I would serve God. But the only place and the only time you can serve God is in your place, your very present. And it reminds me of I love a quote from Lord of the Rings where Frodo, the Hobbit, who's got this responsibility of the ring, and he's just overwhelmed with the responsibility. And he says this, he said, "I wish it hadn't happened in my time." And Gandalf, the wise wizard, and says this, he said, "So do I. And so does everybody who lives to see such times." He said, "But all we can decide is what we're going to do with the time that's given to us." We can just decide what we're going to do in the present. So here's 3 questions for you to think about in your group or on your own or wherever you might be. And the first is this: when have you found a why has got you through a how? From the Viktor Frankl quote. When have you found a why has got you through a how? When have you found a why, a purpose has got you through a how, a tough circumstances? When has that happened to you? Second question, what season are you in? What is this time? What is the present that you are in? What circumstances you're in? What opportunities are you in? What is going on for you just now? And then the third question is what is the purpose that you might have in that time? What is the purpose God's given you in the present? And if you're not sure what that is, then there's kind of a fourth question, which is this: how are you going to discover that purpose? How are you going to discover what the purpose is for your time such as this? So when have you had a why that's got you through a tough how? What is your now? What is your present? What is going on for you just now? What season are you in? And what's your purpose in that season? And if you're not sure of that, how will you find out? It's been good sharing with you. Have a fantastic discussion. And who knows, maybe God's brought you to your place and for your position for such a time as this. And may you find your purpose in your presence. Thank you.